This is Halloween. This is Halloween.
Kidnap the Hickey Notch.
This is Halloween. This is Halloween.
It was. Now apparently Mariah says it's her season.
We have to start listening to All I Want for Christmas Is You now.
She tweeted that like at like midnight.
No way. That's I kind of respect it. It's got to be like one of the biggest songs, maybe not in the world, but at least in the country.
But it shouldn't start being played until after Thanksgiving or
I
on Thanksgiving. I'll give her
I
on Thanksgiving,
have
but
already seen Christmas trees and Christmas lights in the world.
yep,
So they probably saw her tweet and were like, "Oh shit, we better start decorating."
it makes no sense though. Like I can't, I couldn't buy Halloween blow ups in Lowe's in the beginning of October because all the Christmas stuff was out already.
Well, Mariah's spoken, so you need to respect that.
She needs to respect spooky season.
It is spooky season. We discovered this Nightmare Revisited album from 2008. Very
Which made
timely
my
on our
Halloween.
part. It's so good. So I always knew Rise Against did the Making Christmas cover. And we were watching Nightmare Before Christmas like this past week, and that song came on in the show. So then after I put on the Rise Against version, and I realized it was attached to a whole album. And me and Brett listened to this Nightmare Revisited album a whole bunch. And
I
it's
can't
wild,
believe I can't believe I've missed this corn like kidnapped the Santa Claus for years.
right? This
It's
is the
literally been
only
like over a
version.
decade.
This is the only version I want. Korn was made to play this song.
They
And they
really were, and the breakdown in it.
oh my god, it's so good. Like they should have just put this in the show. This and the Marilyn Manson version of This Is Halloween
Those
are
are the two most played singles.
yeah, and I think it's rightfully so. Well, shout out first to let me get his name right. Danny Elfman, because he wrote all the songs and the score for Nightmare Before Christmas, and he did the singing voice of Jack. So that guy is kind of a legend because that's a lot of work, and these songs are great.
I think he does a bunch of other movie soundtracks too.
Probably that would have been a good idea to look that up beforehand.
Pretty sure he did Beetlejuice. I might be making that up though, but it
That
would make sense because you have that Tim Burton connection.
yeah, he did. I did a quick goog
There we
while we
go.
were talking. He did Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, Edward Scissorhands,
Batman.
Corpse Bride. If he did Batman, it's not on the very first
Okay.
page of Google, which is as much
I know
research as
Prince
I'm
did the
doing.
actual soundtrack, but I don't know if he did the music.
Ah, yeah,
Fun facts.
this guy did an animated Christmas Halloween movie, and now he has Korn and Marilyn Manson covering his songs. Oh, he actually has a song on this. Closing is just him.
He like narrates it.
Yeah, what a great voice. This was so cool though. It was all over the place too. Like Amy Lee was on it, Flyleaf was on it. Um, Rise Against, like I said, uh, Plain White Tees, All American Rejects. This might be like my favorite All American Rejects song.
It's
I don't
up
listen
there.
to a ton of
I still
All
like
American
Swing Swing.
Rejects. That's a good
And
one.
the last song might be my favorite.
It's called The Last Song.
Yeah, on that I think it was a self-titled first album
Uh,
before they got like really poppy.
I never listened to a ton of them, but I like this one because I feel like it's I forget his name. He has like a cool name though. Doing like his best like Gerard Way used impression. He just has that like theatrical like emo thing going on.
For Jack Skeleton.
Yeah. So I'd like to live in another world where All American Rejects just did Black Parade type music. Maybe they do. I don't listen to them enough to actually know. So
I don't think they do. Just a hunch there.
just a hunch. Yeah, that's fair. There's some cool stuff on this though. This one band, what's it called? Uh Amina, something like that. It was just like a really cool, like big theatrical it had like I don't even know how to
Vibes.
describe this. Yeah. Yeah, it was just really cool. It had like this synth that would like do this really cool like high pitched noise, and I don't know. They just really like set a mood with Dr. Finkelstein in the forest.
There were a couple of tracks on there that were like all instrumental, which I was surprised by. But some of
Yeah.
them were a little too long. Like, I feel like two of them were like 7 minutes, and
Hey,
another one was like 9 minutes, but it was all
the
instrumental.
Yoshida brothers are incredible. I actually listened to that whole 7.5 minute one, and
I did too.
I didn't plan to. I was like, I'll listen to this for a little and then I'll skip, and just never wanted to skip.
But then Oogie Boogie was instrumental after that too, and they
True.
saved like the lyric version for the end, which I don't agree with. Should have flip flopped that.
Yeah.
Got to
Oogie
have those
Boogie was
words in
like
there.
a flamenco take on Oogie Boogie. It's very interesting.
The bonus track version was very good though.
I didn't make it that far.
You can listen to the whole thing.
I listened to the whole thing, but I listened the first time I listened was while getting ready to go out for Halloween. So it wasn't a I wasn't digesting. And then I put it on again on Halloween, but I didn't make it to the end. I think I made it to Plain White Tees
I listened to the full thing.
many times. I'd listened to Korn and Marilyn Manson a bunch.
That one, how could you not?
Yeah. Oh, Danny Elfman also does opening on it, which makes sense. But yeah, great Halloween album. It was a lot of fun. Not there's so many Christmas songs, but then when it comes to Halloween, like I don't know if there are a lot of Halloween songs. I'm not familiar with them. Just like the Monster Mash.
And the Ghostbusters theme
Yeah.
and the Halloween theme song
Yep. Those are the three. Those are the only three songs that have anything to do with Halloween.
and the Time Warp from am I blanking? Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Uh yes, yes. We had some other albums this week too.
It's a busy week, surprisingly, after we thought nothing was out. Well, I think we're almost a month behind with one of these, but and a
What
week behind with another. No, it came out Thursday.
all
Okay,
right.
we're not behind on that one.
Which one do you want to go into?
Start with Parkway. Since we're a
All
little
right.
behind.
Yeah. So Parkway Drive, the Australian metalcore band, put out where's the name? Where's the name? Darkness, something darkness, darker still.
Darker Still.
Yeah. So I always like heard of these guys, but I never listened to them a whole lot. I remember them being like around for Warped Tour back in the day. What's your experience with Parkway Drive, Brett?
So that's when I first crossed paths with them when like Horizons, I think, dropped in 2007, I want to say.
Yeah, that
And
album
then,
was really good. I listened to
yeah.
that a few times.
And then I got really hooked on them. And they dropped Deep Blue in 2010. And we're on Warped Tour that summer. That was the first time I saw them live, and they were incredible. And then I've been hooked ever since. I feel like they're one of those like metalcore bands that actually like they're really talented musicians too.
Yeah.
In addition to like, and it had like Winston McCall, I think is the singer's name, and his screams are like up there with the best. I think we talked about this when they went on hiatus in the spring, and I guess like they
Hmm.
came back really really quickly after making that announcement.
Yeah, I found
But
this Australian ABC News documentary that had them in therapy and like all like talking it out together, and they kind of broke it down. And this band has been through some shit, which like I didn't realize. Like they're all like Australian like surfer dudes, self-described surfer bums from the documentary. And they took their name from like the street where their rehearsal space was, and there was this live venue called the Parkway House. And yeah, they just started making this music which wasn't like too big in Australia at the time, and then they started getting a following. And in '06 they flew to the US. They recorded Killing with a Smile with Adam from Killswitch, and it just kind of like took off from there. They joined Warped Tour in '07. Um, they signed. So this I thought was really cool. They had a bass player. Um, Cashy was Sean Cashy was his name, and he left the band because he was having a kid and just like decided it wasn't for him. And they replaced him with one of their friends, well, one of their mates, as they put it, and he was their merch guy, Gia Pie O'Connor, and he didn't even play. He never played bass in his life, and they're like, "We don't care. Like, you're our friend. Like, we want you in the band. Just figure it out." And that's how that guy got in the band. And that's how exact same story of how I started playing bass for a band in high school. So props to this guy for just being told bass is easy and then realizing it's not.
It's really not.
No, you really need to like have your timing down to play bass. So he picked it up and just kept going. But they put out that hiatus thing that we saw in, what do we say, like April?
I feel like,
Something
yeah,
about it.
I think it was April. I think it was like one of our first shows.
Yeah. And they just came out and like straight up said like we were complete dicks to one another for decades and we needed therapy to avoid the band breaking up. So like they did that and they put it all out on the table. And like a big thing with this band was they all had other roles in the band. So like Luke was managing, Winston was doing like press stuff, Jeff was producing, Ben was making movies. Like they put out a few DVDs about the band. So like what they were all getting paid was different because they all had different roles, but they also had one of their own guys in charge of it. And Gia, the bass player, was just listed as a subcontractor for 17 years. And he didn't get like an equal cut to what any of the other guys are making. And this like came up like in this video and like their therapy and stuff. And and they were like, we think it's time that like you're officially in the band, which is like
That's crazy.
crazy. Yeah, it's absolutely crazy. Um, but he's getting his fair cut now. So like I think it's just cool how like open they were about this because like there's like that bro culture and I would think especially like in Australia like a lot of tough guys. Like this isn't really something that's probably normal to open up about. And they did what they had to do and like saved their band. So it's pretty cool. Like I ton of respect for them for doing that.
Like a lot of that came out on this album too. Like you could tell like it was coming from a place of struggle, but I want to say they came out better for it. I think this is easily one of their best albums they've recorded. I think it's very different from the earlier stuff because like there's like there's no clean vocals whatsoever
On the
on the
earlier stuff.
earlier
Yeah.
stuff. But now like there's some. It's like not the greatest singing, but it's still like it's a good change of pace, and I feel like it shows them maturing as a band. But
Yeah.
the musicianship is still there. Like there's some heavy breakdowns. The guitars are still top notch. The
Yeah,
breakdowns are of
absolutely.
course there. So
I think that's a really good take on it because it's been very like split between like the fans on
really,
but because a lot of people think they're just changing their sound to like make like arena rock songs,
I wouldn't go that far.
right? Like I don't. I mean,
Do they listen to Arena Rock?
well, I think they see them dropping the screams and think it's just them trying to appeal to a larger audience, which even if that's the case, like, is that so bad? You have 6 or 7 albums of like heavy growling, and if they want to sing more cleanly, like bands are gonna grow and change, and it's just like a story of every band
Yeah.
ever that's been around.
But like go listen to Deep Blue and tell me how you can sing like that for 20 years. You can't. There's no like his growls are like they're earth shattering. They're like next level in this genre. And I don't blame him if he wants to sing a little bit to like save his voice because you can't do that forever. And he did not hold back ever. So I don't hate the clean vocals at all. I think it adds like a nice different touch to the band and like the heaviness is still there. Like they didn't kick that to the side at all.
Yeah, no, it's definitely still like metal at its core. Like the guitars and instrumentals all have like those elements of metal music. It's just less growling. Not really a huge deal unless like that's all you care about.
Yeah. The one thing I did that did make me laugh a little bit, and I don't think this was intentional. And I wanted to tell you before we recorded, but I feel like getting your reaction live is much better. So the first track, Ground Zero, for some reason, it just sounds like this is what like a metalcore band of pirates would sound like. Like it had like it like the chorus, like the gang vocals sounded like very like, oh, we're on the deck of a ship in a storm trying to steal some booty. Is like the vibes it gave off, and like I don't know if maybe that's just the way I was hearing it, like because the first time I listened to it, but
I mean, we are in an era of sea shanties.
it was very sea shanty. There it is. That's the word I couldn't find.
And they grew up on the coast of Australia, so they are pirates.
Maybe I'm onto something.
I I totally hear it now that you said it, but I definitely didn't think that. I was thinking you were going to try and do some sort of like Planet Zero joke, but I couldn't figure out how you would do that because the only similarity is just like the word zero.
It's very different albums here.
I know. I was trying so hard. I'm like, what? Where's he going with this? Because
This one I probably like better than that one.
you said it like I would have picked up on that. But I did not hear the pirateness, but I'm glad you told me because now I hear it and it's way better.
Sea shanties. Heavy sea shanties.
So yeah, that album was great. I really liked Glitch. Thought that was a good one.
Glitch is a good one.
Yeah.
What was the other one I wrote down here? Where'd it go?
They had a lot of good songs spread out throughout their albums though. Because I was like really like trying to listen to everything. I thought Horizons was great. Unrest off Deep Blue was really good.
Then Atlas is really good. The album after that,
Don't think
the
I made
song
it to
"Dark
Atlas
Days" is a really good song.
by Pup.
Wild Eyes, different Dark Days. This is pre
Okay.
Pup.
Pup got their inspiration from Parkway Drive.
That'd be pretty cool if it was. Land of the Lost, I liked. Greatest Fear.
They're awesome though. They give me big like Kill Switch vibes, which I guess makes sense because they worked with Adam in the past, and it's the same like genre.
They're just missing those melodies and the like.
Yeah.
Kill
Like
Switch could be like really beautiful at times.
yeah.
Parkway doesn't really have that element. I
No,
mean,
they keep it.
guitar chord maybe, but not vocally.
Yeah, that's true. But no, it was good. It was a fun rabbit hole to go down for a band I never listened to too much, but have heard about for ever. Like since we've been going to these festivals, they were always a band that came up.
I had to see them live again. The only reason I knew they put a new album out was because Starland announced a February show. I was
Oh
like, oh, I thought they were
wow.
on hiatus, and then I saw there's a new album that dropped like in the end of September.
Oh, that would be a really cool show.
I think there was someone cool too.
I forget because I saw their other tour, but that was the one they canceled. With like, was it Set It Off or I don't I don't know off the top of my head, but I think I would totally see them.
They were really good the couple times I saw them on Warp Tour.
Oh, speaking now, I'm looking at their tour dates. Speaking of pirates, they are playing this thing called Shipwrecked, and it's a cruise to the Bahamas.
That is pretty cool.
Yeah,
Oh, it's with Memphis May Fire.
ah, that is a good tour. That's a nice Starland show. It's the last. Oh, nope, not the last.
Saturday, February 11th.
It's tempting. I want to see more bands that I haven't seen before instead of seeing the same bands. I mean,
I
I
think,
still want to see the same bands too.
yeah. I wouldn't mind seeing some new ones though. As I'm about to say, like the
Struggle.
Menzingers for like the 12th time, probably.
The struggle's real. We had another album, sort of.
Asterisk.
Yeah. So 4 Years Strong re-recorded Enemy of the World. And from what I understand, they re-recorded it because their original one is on a label that they don't I don't know if they don't get along with or what, but the label has the rights, so like they can't do anything with it. They can't release it on vinyl. Um,
It's on Universal,
yeah,
Universal Motown Records,
yeah, and that was what 2010, right? That was their third album. Yeah,
2010. Yeah.
yeah. So they re-recorded it, and I think it sounds great. Like I didn't notice too much of a difference other than like the guitars just sound like everything sounds kind of crisper, which doesn't bother me. But I
So
know you're a bigger 4 Year Strong fan, so I'm interested in your take.
was gonna say the biggest difference was that there's no Josh Lyford. I got it right. I keep saying Josh Lyman from like West Wing, but I know it's Josh Lyford. Who was the former keyboardist, synth player, and he would do the screams in most of the songs uh on this Enemy of the World and Rise or Die Trying. Those screams were him, and then he pretty much both sides agreed to separate in 2011, or I'm trying to figure out the story. I know friends of the pod, Dan, friends of the pod, Matt and Frank know better than I do what happened here. But basically, I know. Hold on,
Everybody, hold
hang
on.
on. Okay,
And we're
so
back.
I'm taking it from Wikipedia. So here we go. So basically, Alan Day said that the new songs the band wrote around this time were diverse, and the material is different compared to anything they wrote before, and that they wanted to go in a different direction from having those keyboards and synths and make it more guitar driven. And they gave him the boot.
Wow.
And I think they're still not on like the greatest of terms. And I feel like the band is still missing his screams a little bit, but the guitars on this were turned all the way up, and you can see
Yeah.
how far they've come. And it's a lot heavier of an album too than the original, even though the original has those screams. I feel like they had someone else in studio to do the screams with them on this one, although I'm not sure who. And like it wasn't as good on track two,
Tonight we feel
Tonight
alive.
Feel Alive, and then but the scream was fine on What the Hell is a Gigawatt. But Tonight We Feel Alive, the scream I didn't really like on the re-recording.
Interesting.
But other than that, I thought like it clearly shows how far they come. Because like this was like kind of around the time where they tried to make that shift into mainstream and made like in some way, shape, or form. From when
Yeah.
we talked about with Rob a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
But now they kind of went back to their pop punk sound and they're comfortable being in that sound and making that kind of music, and it shows. And I think it's a great re-recording. I'll probably definitely jump back and forth between the two. Like there are still moments of Josh screaming and those keyboards that like were signature in those early 4 Year Strong songs, but I still really enjoyed this one.
Yeah. I agree. I thought it sounded pretty spot on, like you said. I didn't notice the screams as much, but I didn't spend as much time with Enemy of the World as you did. But I thought it was great. I tried like I put on Find My Way Back, and then I put on the original, and I kept listening to them back and forth, and really wasn't much of a difference to me. Just like crisper guitars was really the only standout.
I think the one that stood out to me, like the biggest difference, is the body that pays the bills. Like that kind of blended into Enemy of the World for me. Like every time I listened to it, that wasn't one of the tracks I'd go to. But I
Yeah,
feel like it getting reworked here, like it really stood out, and I think it's like a much better song than it was in the original.
that's
I don't know
cool.
if it's like something like how they produced this one, or it just adding that heaviness to it just brought it to another level.
Yeah, I mean they have what like 7 or 8 albums under their belt at this point since they did that album. Definitely,
I think
definitely a lot.
4,
4 or 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
5,
Yeah.
right?
So like they're seasoned vets at this point. So I bet there was a lot. Like I wonder if these artists listen to these early albums and think like, man, if I could do it again, I'd love to change like X, Y, or Z or like tighten this part up. And they had an opportunity to do that, which is pretty cool.
It's like what Taylor Swift is doing to get a horror music back under her control. She's recording all her old albums,
Yeah,
re-recording her old albums.
my not to go on a Taylor Swift tangent, but my sister was telling me, she's like, make sure you listen to like Taylor song versions. I was like, what does that mean? And she's like, she re-recorded a bunch of stuff
Yeah.
because the label like won't give them to her or something like that.
So she's dropped two, I think, so far that she re-recorded.
That's cool. It's what a loophole. Like that artist can do this.
Yeah.
It's so silly.
There's no stopping it either.
I wonder how much you have to do. Like you have to re-record the whole thing, I guess, but if you don't make like could they just take all the tracks and like change like add a word to each one in the end and then mute it and say it's a new version?
I think she has tweaked the lyrics in some of them.
Yeah.
So that's probably a way to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know. I like that the artists are taking the power back on these labels because it's like, what do you even need labels for at this point?
You really don't.
Radio's not a thing.
You get pushed on Spotify ads.
Yeah, about it. It is always interesting the bands that get advertised at the top of Spotify. I got a push notification the other day from Spotify that a bunch of demos from the Beatles for I think it was Revolver were released, which actually was like an awesome push notification, and I want to listen to that. But I'm like, why is Spotify sending me like a text basically to tell me about something? Like, get out of here. But I was kind of glad they did
They
because
send you like show notifications too, like, oh, this band you like is playing near you
yeah,
on this date.
yeah, and then yeah, like it's not even bad things. Like I want to know if a bunch of Beatles demos come out or if a band I like is touring near me, but I don't know. So
Good old follow feature on Spotify, so you
everything's
don't
so
miss anything.
invasive now. Like, everything's gotta like be pushing their shit on you. It's crazy. But we had, speaking of bands going out of their way to be noticed, we had a band do the opposite, basically. Um, we'll do some quick general ad fishing and then we'll get to our interview with Tom. But last Halloween, Fish likes to do like musical costumes, and back in the day they used to just like cover an album on Halloween for the second set. And last year they just did a whole new album that they called Sci-Fi Soldier, and it was like 12 new songs. And this past Halloween they not re-released, but they released all like the demos that they basically like recorded to figure those songs out. But they did it under Sci-Fi Soldier. Like it has nothing to do with Fish on Spotify, which I thought was kind of cool. And I don't know. I just like that they're so goofy. It's just a weird thing to do. It's like they didn't want people to see it almost.
I need to give this one like a deeper listen. I kind of like crammed it after like I found out it came out
Yeah,
yesterday.
there's not like
But
too much to it, to be honest. The first song, Knucklebone Broth Avenue.
Funky Fish.
Yeah. And it's just that name alone is like funky just to say. But like the set was an hour and this CD is 30 minutes. So
There's
uh,
no jams on it.
no, no. And like some of them are only like under a minute. And when they played them live, they were like 10. So this is really like kind of bare bones demos, but it's
They
really
got
cool just like hearing how this all these songs kind of started.
they have to drop the live version maybe next Halloween.
It's it's if you have like live fish, it's there, but it's not on Spotify. It's just the 10/31/21 show. You could find it on like re-listen or there's all these different apps, but
10/31/21 show.
yeah. Yeah, and they released like a comic book with it of like all of them like I forget. They had to like bring the funk back and like save the world or something. Like it's just stupid, but it's just
That's
fun.
why it's called Get More Down.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's why the album cover is like very comic-y.
Yeah.
That's where it
Yeah,
comes from.
they released like an actual comic book you could order.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. It is pretty fun. And Trey's guitar tone on this album is awesome, just like real fuzzy and crisp and great. Crisp is the word of the day for guitar tones.
Very crisp. Guitar Week
Yeah,
here on General Admission.
that's right. Crispy guitars given to us. Um, you want to get to our interview? Very
Let's do
excited
it.
for this one.
One of our biggest.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. We're going to throw it over to Tom and we're going to talk some day to remember. And we'll see you guys on the other side. All right. We now welcome on a very, very special guest. He's produced, played guitar on, and written songs for so many incredible bands from Pierce the Veil to Wage War, Secrets, Neck Deep, and so many others. You might know him best as one of the founding members, songwriter, and guitarist for A Day to Remember. That's right. You don't have to like him, but you're going to respect him. He is Tom Denney. Tom, thank you so much for joining us. It's so good to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
How's it going?
It's going good. How are you?
Good, good. So
Good.
I want to just kick it right off. Did
Yeah.
you invent putting breakdowns in pop punk songs?
I don't
Don't
know if
be
like
humble.
I don't know if I did like per se. I think we did as a collective. I did remember, like I mean, don't get me wrong. There were people doing it when we started doing it, but there just wasn't not a lot. The bands that were doing it weren't very big, and a lot of people looked down upon it, like it was like some kind of weird thing. Like, why would you mix with pop punk? But I think we were the first people to actually like take it and run with it, like make it our thing, so. And it was
Yeah.
kind of by like I didn't want breakdowns, like I wanted pop punk, and like
Oh, wow.
the other half of the band wanted breakdowns and they wanted to be heavy, and I'm like, well, like I don't remember who said it, but we came to the conclusion that we have to meet in the middle, so we decided to basically just merge the two and see what came out of it. And that's kind of what happened by
Wow.
accident.
I think it worked.
Yeah, for sure.
So what made you lean like more towards like the pop punk side as opposed to like having breakdowns?
I just I don't know, like I grew up listening to melodic stuff, like and when I was really young it was like grunge, in the 90s, and then I got into like skate punk and pop punk and stuff when I was in my teens, and I was just like I was just in love with it. And and then like when I was in my early 20s, when Taking Back Sunday first came out and those kind of bands, the whole emo thing happened, I was just like, damn, this shit's so good. And I just wanted to be in a band that was like really catchy. And I didn't even listen to hardcore until I started the band. A Day to Remember. Like I didn't really know much about the hardcore scene at all. I listened to some death metal, like Cannibal Corpse and stuff when I was younger, but I really didn't know much about the hardcore scene until we started, like, until I like started the band. They were showing me their influences and really showing me like music that I never really, because back then like the internet wasn't what it is today, so it was really hard to discover new music. You kind of like, it was like a word of mouth thing, or like your friends would show you new bands or something. It was just like that's how it was back then. So it was really hard to like really break out of the genre that you knew you liked, and when they did, I wasn't really like, it's not that I wasn't into it, I didn't want to be in a hardcore band, you know what I'm saying? It just wasn't for me at the time when I was younger. Things are different now, but when I first started the band, I didn't really want, I mean, I wanted to be an emo band, I remember literally, which is kind of cringe now, but I remember saying it all the time. And so yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean that's awesome. It's funny how things work out. It's
Yeah,
one of the things I always liked about your music, and it's kind of like a theme across a lot of the bands you work with, is that contrast between melodic and then when the breakdown hits, it's that much harder. It's just
yeah.
like it's a really good blend.
And I I got to like when I said when I first started the band and got introduced to all this stuff, I wasn't really into it at first, but it took me like writing and figuring out how to like mismatch the two genres to really actually like appreciate it, I guess, and then I started to like it, and it kind of became my thing after I left the band. It kind of became my thing to like, not even just, not strictly hardcore and pop punk, but any multiple genres. It's like, that's what I like to do. I like to mix genres together. It's fun.
Now, is there like a certain like kind of chemistry in your head, like where like you can't go too much to one side when you kind of blend both sounds? I feel like it's like a delicate balance. Like some bands do it really well and some maybe miss the mark a little bit, but I feel like everything you've worked on, you've found a way to kind of mesh it all together and again get that perfect like chemistry with it.
Yeah, there's definitely a happy medium. You have to make sure. I mean, you can write the most pop punk parts ever and the heaviest breakdown ever and put it together, as long as like the feeling is the same. You know what I'm saying? Like the emotion and the music it has to match each other. I think where bands go wrong, or songwriters go wrong, when they try to do it, is that they're just like, they're putting two totally different energies together, and you have to make sure the energies are the same. And I really think that if the energies and the mood of the part matches, it can be any genre. You know what I'm saying? Like it can really be anything, and it'll work together.
Can you walk us through that process a little bit, whether it's with A Day to Remember or any of the other bands you've worked with? Like, do you generally start in one specific spot, or does it kind of like vary from artist to artist?
It kind of varies. I'd say most of the time I start with the chorus. Sometimes I'll start with like a riff or something that I'll hear in my head. I do a lot of writing in my head before I even like pick up a guitar. Like I think about, like I get inspired a lot by listening to, I listen to a lot of different kind of music, and I get really inspired, and I've like found a way to take that inspiration and think about how I could possibly, use that and write something new from the inspiration. And I'll think about it, and I'll basically let it cook in my head, you know what I'm saying? And I'll think about what could happen. I'll think about the parts while maintaining the feeling that the song or part or whatever inspired me to begin with gave me. And then I'll think about the song, and it's like kind of in the back of my head, like throughout the day. It's not like I'm sitting in an empty room, like, thinking like, but that's not what I do. But I'm constantly thinking about new music that I haven't written yet. So by the time I sit down and I actually start to write something, I at least have a general idea of what I want to do, and then it really is just kind of figuring out how to get it out of my head and make it a song that people actually want to listen to. Sometimes I write really bad music and I'm just like, God, not translate. It's what it is. But
do you use use your notes app and voice memos and stuff for this? Because I'll think of melodies sometimes and then I'll forget them like 10 minutes later and be like, damn, like what did I do before? That sounded cool. And
yeah,
you just lose it.
I'll do that mostly for breakdown rhythms. Like I'll like think of like a breakdown I want to do, or I want to possibly use. Sometimes I'll just pop in my head, and then I'll come up with a really cool, intricate like pattern. You know what I'm saying? That I know I'm not gonna remember. Yeah. So I'll just mouth it, in my phone, just so one day when I need a breakdown, I can just pull out that da 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 da. It's like, it sounds so hard, but
you should just release a whole album of that.
Someone did. I should. So
I was listening to all your work the past week or two since we've been leading up to this, and before leading up to this, because I just like music. But I always thought it was so cool on And Their Name Was Treason, how you guys have songs like take Heartless, for example. It's like super heavy, and then towards the end you have You Had Me at Hello, and that's on like your first album. Like, I feel like it takes some balls to put that song on there the first
Yeah.
time. Like, was that a
Or for sure.
choice to do that, or
No,
was there
that's
any?
what
It just felt
it was.
right.
It was more ignorance than being bold. It wasn't a choice. It's just, when we first, when we first started writing music, and like we didn't really have a plan, like I said, like we came up with this breakdown pop punk stuff because none of us were happy, so like we had to like merge together and figure a way to make everybody happy. And on that first record you can kind of hear it's like uh we really didn't know, like, as a songwriter, I didn't really know what I was doing yet. It took a couple albums for us to figure out exactly how far we can go on the breakdown side, or what I'm saying, like everything I just said to you about balancing the parts. I had no idea what I was doing on that first record. Some of it turned out okay. It's just it was really, we just wrote songs that we liked and they made the record. Like that's literally the end of it. Like there was no
Gotcha.
thinking. There was no like master plan. Unfortunately, there was, but which I could take
Interesting.
credit.
Yeah.
Now, where would you say you figured that out? Would that be like around Homesick?
Homesick, yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think the record before Homesick, I don't even remember the name of it. I have so
Does
long
You Have
ago.
a Heart?
There you go. Throw So Far. That one was you can kind of hear the progression. It was, we were definitely way more experienced of mixing the genres than before. I think the first record I can't even remember if we like knew we were mixing genres really. We did obviously, but like it was so different and so many people were telling us it was a bad idea. We weren't really embracing it yet. And then the next record, we actually knew that it was working. We got signed to Victory. Like all these things were happening because we were doing that. And it was like, okay, well now we know it's working. So we have to work more and put a little bit more effort into making the heavy and the poppy work together. And then Homesick, we just had a lot more time. We had more time, like an experience with writing those kind of songs. And we had a lot more time to sit back and actually write music for that record and spend a lot of time making it work better than we did before. And I think that was the record where it was obvious, yeah, this is how you're supposed to do it. I'm really proud of that record still to this day.
Yeah.
Still one of my favorites.
Yeah. You mentioned how a lot of people kind of told you it wasn't going to work. And I
Yep.
feel like that's kind of a theme in a lot of songs, a lot of A Day to Remember songs, how like people doubted you or didn't believe in you, this and that. And you guys were like sticking true to how you felt and just doing what you were going to do.
Yeah.
There was a lot of that. Like,
Oh man,
yeah.
I can tell you how much there was, and I'll be underestimating it. I mean,
Wow.
under explaining it. I mean, it was everybody. I mean, we were after we did, and their name was Treason. We were shopping, trying to get signed to a bigger label. I mean, everybody said no. Every label you can possibly think of turned us down, except for Victory. And it was just no one got it. At the time, like it was so foreign and weird, like nobody understood it. And I don't even know that we did yet. So I can see why back then people might have been kind of nervous about it or put off by it. But yeah, I mean, literally it seemed like an impossible, like we were in an impossible situation because it seemed like nobody liked it, but fans liked it. Kids were listening to it, like people were coming to our show, so obviously we knew we were onto something. It just everybody up top, like management and labels and booking, no one really understood it or wanted to put or wanted to take the time to really understand it, you know. So I think it took like putting out a couple records and touring constantly and selling a bunch of records to really show or give people like, you know, a chance to be like, oh, maybe we should embrace this whole, you know, hardcore thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Um, you left, well, you didn't leave the band, but you stopped touring after Homesick, and you mentioned the rigorous amounts of touring you did. And earlier, just hearing you talking about songwriting, it sounds like that's kind of where you always leaned.
yeah,
Um,
definitely.
so you left during the Homesick tour, but there was no plans to leave the band, like, because
Right.
you stayed on for Common Courtesy at least.
Yeah.
Yeah, so what was that process like for you? Like, just kind of deciding not to tour anymore? Like, was that just felt natural, or was it a
Yeah.
tough decision for you?
It was tough because, you know, I was basically taking a chance and leaving right at the moment where we were getting we were making it, you know what I'm saying? Like right, I mean, this was right after Homesick came out. Homesick came out, it did really well. um we were playing sold out huge shows like that we never did before. This all this big stuff was happening, and I just didn't want to do it, you know. I just was burnt out. um I was getting married. I knew for a while I was unhappy on tour. I just kind of, you know, ignored it because it was a part of being a musician, you know. It was just a part of, I kind of had to do it, you know. But when that record came out and I knew that we were going to be on tour for the next like years, like forever, you know, I was just like, I can't do it anymore. I mean, I can't. I was so unhappy. It was like, it was a big decision to make, but an easy decision to make, if that makes sense for me, because I just knew it wasn't for me. And
Yeah.
Kevin's a better guitar player than me, so he definitely definitely made the band better live. So
Yeah, if you, I mean, you look at Homesick and what it's about, it kind of makes a lot of sense in hindsight.
yeah, it definitely does. Yeah.
How would you say you kind of like took that like once you kind of stopped touring? Like, how'd you take that experience from like all your songwriting and everything with the Day to Remember, like into becoming pretty much producing full time?
um you know, I, when we were making Homesick, Chad from New Found Glory produced that record, and I learned a lot from him in that experience. Because we worked with Andrew Wade, but he was like a local producer at the time. So like, um, Chad was the first person I personally had ever worked with that was like, you know, kind of a big deal. He had worked with a lot of big producers himself and learned a lot from them. And so like when we were working with him, I was like really paying attention because I knew I've always known I wanted to produce and write music. I just didn't know when it was going to happen. So, you know, I learned a lot from him. And so when I left, you know, I really like, I took a lot of inspiration from how I saw him, you know, taking our bare songs and turning them into what you know now, you know. Because a lot, I mean, that's, he did a lot of work on that record, you know. And I didn't even realize that producers did that at the time, you know. And it was really eye-opening for me and inspiring because I'm like, it just was like, oh, a light bulb went off, you know. Holy shit, this is what producers do. I can do this. I want to do this for other people, you know. And it just was like, it was also one of the things that pushed me towards the decision of leaving the band. You know, it's like, well, I want to do this. I don't want to, you know, I don't want to do this. I want to work with other artists and help them make good records. And it's like, that's the thing that I love doing, you know. Touring is, it's just never been, you know, it's never been a thing for me really. But yeah, so when I started working with bands, it kind of just, I mean, it worked immediately because I loved doing it. And it was, you know, like when you start doing something sometimes it takes a while for you to like, oh yeah, this is it. I mean, it was immediate for me. I knew I loved doing it immediately. It, you know, it took a few years to get decent at it, you know, but um, I've always loved it. I've always loved making records. So it was pretty seamless for me.
What do you bring to the table for these bands? Like, what do they come in with? And then what do you do with their music to kind of help get it to that point of a finished product? I mean, I'm sure it's different for,
Yeah, it's different for
yeah.
every project. You know, my main thing is songwriting. You know, I'm a songwriter before anything, and I use that and I implement that when I work with everybody. So when if someone brings a record to me that they just want me to produce it and not write, I'm still technically going to be writing. You know, I'm going to be looking at it from a songwriting perspective and trying to make those songs, clean the songs up and make them as good as possible and as listenable as possible, as catchy as possible, you know, and whatever work I have to do, you know, I'll rewrite parts, anything I have to do to make the song a better song. You know what I'm saying?
And how's that work with the artist? Because I know like music can be a personal thing for people. So is it ever awkward saying like, I like what you did, but I want to change it to this, or is that just the deal and everyone kind of agrees
It's
to it?
just, it's the deal. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, sometimes, you know, like anything, sometimes somebody might get like attached to a part or something, and it takes a little prying and convincing to try to get them to understand that, we got to fix this part. It's just not working. But I mean, it very rarely. I mean, most people, all the people, honestly, that come to me, they come to me for a reason, because they trust that I'm going to do whatever I have to do to make the song better for the song. You know what I'm saying? So I pretty much, it's always pretty much an easy, you know, easy work environment for sure.
Sounds fun.
Yeah, sure. I love it.
Now, is there like any album or any song in particular that kind of stands out above the rest of like everything that you've either produced or written on?
Um, I mean, yeah, the Neck Deep stuff I really like, just because I love pop punk.
Yeah.
You know, I was young, and you know, the pop punk songs that I get to write for people they always stay in my memory, just because I love pop punk more than anything. And you know, the Pierce the Veil stuff, because I love that band. I love those guys. They're like really good friends of mine. So
Yeah, they killed it last weekend out in Vegas.
yeah, I heard.
The video with Kellen Quinn was going around. They performed King for a Day and stuff.
Yeah, I saw that on TikTok.
It was very cool.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, the neck deep stuff is great. I was listening to Honor Bright a little bit. I
That
love
was the first record I ever did, actually.
wow.
Yeah, right after I quit the band, that was the first record I produced.
So you're like, no breakdowns for a little bit. I want to just go to the
Yeah,
pop punk.
yeah, like trying to stick to my roots, I guess.
There's some songs where I noticed you're on like just one or two on an album. Like I think there was a Falling in Reverse song you did. How do you wind up just being on one song? Do they reach out specifically for that song, or are you just around when they're writing?
Yeah. So sometimes a band will reach out and want to do a co-write with me, and um, it happens all the time. Actually, it's always happened. You know, I just write one or two songs for the band, and those are the songs that make the record. It's like actually a pretty common thing for
Huh.
songwriters. Yes, I mean, sometimes I'll write or co-write a whole record for a band. But some people like to have work with a variety of people, or some people have their music already where they don't need a whole album written. But you know, a lot of bigger bands, they'll just want to write a couple songs together, you know.
So will they come to you, be like, I have this song, but I think it could use a little more edge or a little something, or is it just they just want to
Sometimes,
write?
most of the time it'll be from us. We'll write from scratch.
Oh, great.
Like, a band will reach out to me, or I'll reach out to a band that I really like that I want to work with. And sometimes I'll write music that I'm literally writing for a band I haven't even met yet. Like I do it all the time. Like I'll like a band, I'll listen to their music, and then I'll write songs, sometimes unintentionally, because I get really inspired by music and I get really influenced. And sometimes I'll just write stuff while like enjoying, like listening to the band, in that period of my life. And then I'll end up with a bunch of songs that sound like them, and I'll reach out to them and be like, "Hey, I wrote some songs for you." If you want, if you want to them. And that's happened a few times where and it worked out. So I mean, there's no right or wrong way of working with people. You just have to find the right channels to go through and ways to do it.
Yeah.
So I know we've kind of talked about like blending the two, like the hardcore and the pop punk sounds together. I feel like one of the bands around today that kind of does it the best is Wage War. I know like you work with them along with Jeremy.
Yeah.
So like two-part question here. So I'm curious what it's like to work with Wage War, and also what it's like to work with Jeremy kind of on the other side of the booth, if you will.
Working with Wage War was great. They were when I first started working with them, they were like just a local band from Ocala, and they weren't signed or anything. We worked on I don't know, an EP that I don't think anybody ever heard, but the songs ended up making their first record. And then we just kept working together and co-writing together. And working with Jeremy I was just used to working with him for years, so it kind of just worked.
Pretty similar.
So, yeah, for sure. It was basically the same process as writing with Day Remember, as working with anybody with Jeremy. I mean, it's just get in a room and write songs,
Yeah.
That's awesome though.
I heard you mention how you guys used to write a gazillion songs just on the bus. You just write and write and write.
Yeah.
How did you decide what songs were then worthy to take to that next level?
It was kind of like, I mean, it was pretty much like, well, we had a bunch of different people that would, like me and Jeremy would write in the back lounge of the bus. And then Andrew Wade would come out and demo the song and then give his opinion on the songs, on which ones were good. And then the rest of the band would hear and give their opinions on which ones they like. And then Chad would hear them and give his opinions on which ones he liked. And basically at the end, we had we would have like everybody's opinion on the songs. And most of the time they were the same songs, and those songs pretty much would make the record. So it was kind of like a group collaborative thing, for everybody to approve what they liked. From what I remember, anyway, it was a long time ago.
Yeah.
I think.
You cut out there for a second.
I think that's how it went, though, from what I remember.
Yeah. I just wanted to double back real quick, because if I don't ask a follow-up on this, I'm going to kick myself. But you mentioned bands that you wrote songs for before meeting them. Like, who are some of those bands that you heard and just wound up writing songs for?
Neck Deep was one of them. I kind of knew I was going to I kind of knew I was going to be working with them. I knew that Jeremy was going to be working with them, and I can't remember what song it was, Serpents maybe, or I don't know. I wrote,
Serpents and Gold Steps, Smooth
Yeah,
Seas.
I think I wrote Serpents before and I sent it to them. I think that was the song. But yeah, I don't know. I don't remember if they were coming to me anyway, or if I sent them I know I sent them stuff before they got to me, but I don't remember if it was like I'm not sure. That was like forever ago.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of some other bands that I did that with.
Did The Word Alive come to you, or you found them?
They came to me.
Okay.
They actually, I think, were also one of those bands I wrote.
2012 is such a great song. I know you worked on that one.
Yeah, I wrote that song. I think that's I remember writing that song and sending it to them. Yeah, that they were one of the bands that I wrote and sent it to them, and then they came and we finished the song. Yeah, sometimes, you know, it really depends. A lot of times, like, you know, one of the bands I'll write with and I'll send stuff to, I'll either know already, or like I'll know somebody that knows, or know somebody that works with them or something. So it's pretty easy to, you know,
Yeah.
to get in touch with them and make it work that way.
I think it's cool how much crossover there is between a lot of these bands. Like, I know you worked with Paddock Park, and then their singer was with Sleeping with Sirens at first, and then Woe Is Me and Favorite Weapon are another two. There's just
Yeah.
all these crossover. Do you notice like why these guys jump bands? Like, is it just the band kind of calls it quits, or the sound changes, or
I think a lot of times a member will leave and start a new band. That's basically how it happens most of the time, you know, or the band will break up and some members from the band that broke up will start a new band, or, you know, and then some other members will start another band. But, you know, a lot of bands that stem off into different things, they always pretty much stay in the same like circle of people. You know, they usually work with the same writers and same producers. You know, that's what most people do in the industry. You work with like your circle, you know, your
yeah.
circle. You know,
It's cool, like, researching. It always says, like, there's no bad blood, like, and I love that. Like, these guys
right.
just wanna make music and work with everyone, and just seems like a great environment.
Yeah, for sure.
It's like 7 stages of Kevin Bacon a little bit.
Yeah, really.
Like everyone's connected.
Especially the art industry. It's like, it's, you know, yeah, it's big and technically, but like the industry itself is so small. Like, I mean, everybody literally knows everybody, or everybody knows, you know, people that know everybody. You know what I'm saying? It's just, I mean, I can think every band that I can even think of, I know at least somebody that is, you know, works with them, or it's a pretty small community. It's pretty awesome.
All these bands in the genre, like, what do you think it is about A Day to Remember that kind of puts them on that next level where they're headlining festivals? They just, because I mean, there's a number of reasons that run through my head, from lyrical content to just like the different sides of the songs, but
Yeah,
curious what you think.
I think all of that. I think also A Day to Remember has been doing it the longest. Um, Day to Remember, it kind of started the whole thing, you know, and the band is also really focused on um, touring a lot and putting a lot of effort into live shows, which has really solidified an audience that's probably going to be there for a long time. And I think that's really what it is. And when we made that decision early on, like, we're going to tour a lot, and we're going to really put a lot of energy into touring and going everywhere as much as possible, because back then that's how you gained an audience. And you know, it really paid off. So now you can make a TikTok and get bigger than, but
Yeah,
back then,
for real.
you know, you had to fucking tour your ass off.
Would you say like the kind of the TikTok aspect might be like the biggest thing that's changed in like the last 10 years since like home, or like the last 12 years since Homesick came out? Like at least from like a producer standpoint, like how much has like making music changed, you know, in the
I
last
think
decade?
I think it's completely changed. I mean,
Okay.
maybe not making music, but consuming music is what's really changed. Um, you know, back then there was no streaming, no music streaming apps or websites. YouTube was like not really anything what it is today. There was no TikTok. Like, it just was so different back then. And that's when piracy was like at its peak. You know, everybody,
Torrents.
I mean, that's why I'm not a millionaire right now, because everyone stole everything. It's But now, like, nobody steals music because it's easier just to get on your phone on Spotify and listen to it. You know, not
Yeah.
that Spotify pays or anything, but you know, it's better than, you know, just piracy. So I think so I think the music industry is in a better place because of that, because more people are consuming more music, which is going to inspire younger generations to create more music. It's just, I think we're in a really good place for sure.
Yeah, I remember just getting handed like burned CDs from like
Yep.
different labels
Yeah,
at
yeah,
festivals.
yeah,
That's how you'd find stuff. And
yeah.
now it's so much easier for artists to get their work out there, but at the same time it might be harder to stand out because there's so much more
That's
content.
yeah. There's good and bad. There's you can listen to anything at any time on your phone, and the downside is you can listen to anything at any time. Well, so like you're not really going to be paying attention to like you know you're really just going to be listening to like the main stuff, and I think so. It's harder to make it now, but um, you can still do it. You just have to work harder. You have to figure out how to navigate through all the social media websites and marketing. Just there's just a lot that goes into this stuff. Wasn't a thing back then. It was just let's just go on tour and put records out, and it's like all you needed back then. And you had to be good, obviously, write good songs, but you know things have changed a little bit. So
Yeah. Have you been following all the drama between Ticketmaster and Blink tickets and just I mean, Blink-182 wasn't the first band to have overpriced concert tickets come out, but it's been more in the headlines lately. I know
yeah, look,
you don't tour as much, but you still like kind of on the inside a little bit.
yeah. I saw something about it a little bit. I knew that they were. I don't know if it was them or if Ticketmaster was like ripping people off, but
Probably
Might be
Ticketmaster.
yeah, kind of a mix. I think they have to allow Ticketmaster to do the dynamic pricing from
yeah, in the
what I
band still
saw.
of the pricing, I think, from what I
Yeah.
understand.
Like
So
when you were touring, like and you guys are selling tickets, I mean, what you were doing more smaller shows than what we're talking about now, but do you see like much from ticket sales or we always hear that like merch is kind of like the primary money
merch for sure.
maker for bands.
Yeah, and it also depends. Like if you're the headliner and you're playing 3,000 cap rooms, you're gonna get back end. You're gonna get money from the door, but I mean you're gonna the bigger bands have guarantees that have to be met no matter what though. But where most bands make their money is definitely merch. That's like the money maker. That's how any musician survives, really, is selling merch on tour. You know, because like not a lot of people make money from music. Period. Maybe some people do, but I never did. So it's always been like making money on tour. That's like you know
Yeah.
what was like one of the downsides of leaving the band. Like it's I left the band, and now all of a sudden I had to find different ways to make money and start a career that I hadn't really done yet. So it was, it took some time, definitely, to smooth out the financial
Yeah, for
change.
sure. And you stepped away from music like altogether for a little bit. Is that
Yeah,
right?
yeah. It took like 3 or 4 years off, and I just needed a break. I got really burnt out. Um, like really burnt out on music and everything. I had to take some mental health years. Had some really hard years for a minute there, and I had to just get away. And I'm glad I did. I took some time off. I got my shit together, and I don't know. I'm glad I did because like it gave me a new perspective on music and how I write. And it really improved how I write music, because when you're doing something your whole life, like constantly, it gets to a point where like it's almost hard to appreciate it. You know what I'm saying? It's like it becomes monotonous.
Yeah.
And I love music. It's literally a part of who I am. When I got to that point, it was so depressing. It really fucked with my head. And I had no other choice but to step away. I had to like forget music altogether. I needed a hard reset. And and it really, it like cured me, cured my the state that I was in, which was really bleak for sure.
I'm
Yeah.
glad it worked out and you came out better for it.
Thank you. Yeah, me too.
Now, would you ever like consider like playing live again? Like if it was like one show, like if there's like a 20th anniversary show for Homesick in Florida, like would you, and the band asked you, like, would you go on stage again with them?
On the spot.
I'm just curious.
I don't know. I'll just leave it at that. I don't know.
You got to
You never-
enjoy some parts of touring, right? Like that's adrenaline on stage has got to be fun.
I enjoyed performing, as soon as
Yeah.
I got on stage, I loved it, It's everything before and after that I didn't really like, leaving my family. And, I'm the kind of person that really thrives on like a stable environment, like I'm very like repetition almost, like wake up, have my coffee, sit at my desk and start writing or whatever. Tour is so not that. It's just not, it wasn't me, but I do love performing. So you never know. We'll see.
Are there any plans to continue working with the Day to Remember on songs, or is it just album to album? If it works out, it works out.
I don't know. I think, we've kind of grown apart musically. So, I mean, you never know. I'm never going to say never, but
Yeah.
as of right now, I'm probably not.
Yeah. I really
Yeah.
like the stuff you've been doing with Secrets. They sound great.
Thank you.
They just had an album come out. Was it
Yep.
this year? I don't remember which month.
Yeah, it was I don't know, a few months ago.
Have you been
March.
with them since the beginning?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's cool.
I didn't do one record when I was on my hiatus, but I've done every other record. So
Nice.
yeah.
Do you have any in the pipeline you're working on right now that you can say?
Yeah, I actually have a new band that I started. I'm not going to tour or anything, but I'm releasing music, which is coming out in November. So in a couple weeks.
Oh shit.
Band's called Sounds Like Color. I can send you guys the EP if you want to hear it.
Oh yeah, that'd be
Yeah, that'd be
rad.
awesome.
Yeah, I'll send it to you when we get off of here.
Cool. Yeah, how long has that been in the works?
Me and a friend of mine have been kind of just writing songs for it for like the past couple years. And we started by just writing, like my plan was we were just going to write and just build up like a catalog of songs. So, when the bands approached me, I had songs, but I like the songs so much. I'm like, I want to release these. Like, I don't want to give these to anybody. So I just decided I'm just going to create a project and release music, kind of like an internet band, I guess. So,
That's great. Yeah.
Looking forward to
definitely.
hearing that.
Yeah.
yeah, I'm
Very
excited.
cool. I had one other question. I know you
Yeah.
worked on a lot of Pop Goes Punk albums. Was
Yeah.
that a ton of fun? Did you guys want to do that? Were you asked, like, how did that kind of come to be, and how'd you pick the songs you picked, like the Frey song and was it Kelly Clarkson, the other one? Since you've been
Yeah. Yeah. And there was a secret song I did too. Ass Back Home song. I love doing those kind of covers. It was always fun to me. It was like easy, I love taking someone else's pop song and just, basically making it heavier. It's just always been like really fun to me. I still love doing it. I mean, people don't do it as much anymore because I think people got covered out, but it's still, I don't know, I just always love doing it. When we did the Frey cover, they sent us like a list of songs to choose from, and that was the only song on that list that I was like, oh yeah, I want to do this song for sure. I don't think the Kelly Clarkson song was actually on.
No, yeah, it was like a bonus track or
It's a
something.
bonus track. Yeah.
On our own. I just wanted to cover a Kelly Clarkson song because I used to love Kelly Clarkson, and I don't know. I kind of, I think we're on tour and I was kind of like jamming that intro riff, and it kind of just picked up, and we like started like playing it in like sound checks and stuff, and then it ended up just making the re-release or the bonus record, or I can't remember what it was,
Yeah.
some victory thing.
I can't listen to either of those songs without screaming the breakdown myself, much to my friends' dismay.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Brett, you got anything else for Tom?
I think you answered all my questions that I had. Been a ton of things I learned today. It's been awesome.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
Yeah, this was so much fun. You've been such a big part of our music journey since, past 15 years or so. So thanks for coming
Awesome.
on and talking to us. And
Thanks for having me.
yeah, we can't wait to hear the new music and just keep seeing great stuff from you.
For sure. Yeah, I'll send it to you in a minute.
Cool. Thanks, Tom.
Yeah, awesome. Have a good one, guys.
You too.
Thanks again, Tom.
Bye.
Yep, later.
And we're back. Thank you to Tom Denney for coming on the show. That was really cool. It was so cool to talk to him. He's
A
the
lot of cool
man.
backstories too.
Yeah, just so much like I never know with these things like how much like a day to remember we could talk or like stuff like that, but he seemed totally like cool to just talk about everything.
It seemed like he had a really cool studio setup too. I kept like staring at his
Yeah,
background the whole interview, and the
yeah.
guitars hanging next to him.
It's definitely worth popping over to our YouTube, even if you just want to peek at the interview there, because he had a super cool studio with so much behind him. And he's like an awesome dude himself. He's all tatted up and everything. Like just a really cool guy. Uh, yeah, that was a sick interview.
Yeah, shout out Tom.
Yeah, thanks, Tom. And we got to talk about his new music, but we'll wait till it's out there.
Very excited for
Yeah.
everyone to hear that because we got a little taste of it after our interview, but I'm excited to deep dive the whole thing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's awesome. It also makes me realize how much I do love streaming because like having to go into an email and click play on 5 individual songs
We
is
gotta need this in one place.
yeah. And you can do like the thing where you upload offline songs to
Your
Spotify,
iTunes.
but it's just like a lot of work. But yeah, yeah. Awesome, awesome interview to have, and we're very grateful. What else we have going on this week? I had some news written down. We talked about T Swift a little earlier, but her new album is crushing like the numbers. There were 2 headlines. Taylor Swift makes history as first artist with entire top 10 on Billboard Hot 100, led by Antihero at number 1, and then
Led by streaming.
led by streaming. Yeah, because it's like every song of hers in the top 10 Hot 100. But like singles, I think used to be like a designated thing based on like if they were released on like a 45 or like whatever. Like I don't know. But like I think you had to specifically like release a single. Whereas this now you release a whole album, but all the songs count as singles. Like
Yeah, I don't understand it.
I'm not trying to discredit her at all because like that's amazing numbers and like that is a huge accomplishment. And I wouldn't be surprised like if the Beatles were putting out like if Sergeant Pepper's came out in the age of streaming, I bet the same like shit would happen. So like
Yeah, because no one's skipping around. You're listening to that from track 1 to the last one.
yeah,
So
yeah. And the album itself, as the headline said, blasts in at number 1, with the biggest week for an album in 7 years since I
7
think
years.
it
That's
I think it was a
26.
I
It's
think it was a
Kanye.
Drake album. Unless the singles was a Drake record that she beat. But
Was it If You're Reading This, Drake?
possibly. That was such a good mixtape. But I don't
I think it
know.
might be. But he's coming out with album with 21 Savage on Friday. So I'm curious if this will knock
Oh,
her off or if she'll hang on.
I mean, he's gonna at least have one or two get in there, like it's Drake.
Yeah,
But
what he does.
I'm hoping that like he comes like he goes hard on this one because we both weren't really feeling his other album. So maybe he'll be like, "Oh, I did like my dance club album, and now like it's just gonna be bars."
It should be because it's like last movie, like the one he did with Future was awesome. So I'm hoping it's like something like that.
That'd be cool. And then we also had Mick Mars is retiring from touring for Motley Crue.
That bummed me out. But also the band was supposed to be done like 3 years ago. So he's
Oh,
probably like,
really?
"Oh, we did our farewell tour, so I can at least like go off in the sunset with the rest of my band." But apparently they're not done. So he's like, "All right, well, I literally can't do this anymore." So
That's what happens. These bands do farewell tours and then they get a taste of that farewell money. They're like, "Oh, well, no one said a farewell tour couldn't last like a decade." Just like ask Elton John. He's been doing it for a while. I've seen like two farewell tours from him in the past 10 years.
they do make
But
money, but like at the same time, like
yeah,
live up to the tour.
yeah,
I get like you miss it, but
I kind of agree. I could see it going on longer than a year, but like within reason. I don't know.
like
But
I love Motley Crue. They should probably be done.
I'm
The
surprised.
farewell tour where they ended on like such a high note, and now to come back, it's like
Yeah. And they're replacing him with John Five, which is pretty cool.
who's he from again?
He's from Rob Zombie and Marilyn Manson band.
That's pretty cool. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. He's a great guitar player. So like it's pretty cool. Apparently, like in like throughout the last 6 months, he's been posting like a lot of Molly Crew stuff. So like it's kind of coming as no surprise to people following. But yeah, I don't know. I agree with you if you're gonna say you're doing a farewell tour, but then I also like just love the idea of these guys just loving music so much that they don't want to stop.
Which is a good point, but I don't know. I think I saw them like at least 5 times in high school, and I feel like they were old then, and now it's like 14 years later. I have to do my math in my head there.
Yeah, that's true. That's a long time. So yeah, we'll see how
I
it
don't
goes,
know.
I guess. We'll see where they're at in another year.
Like I haven't seen them since those days because I feel like I'm like nothing's gonna top this then, and I already missed their heyday of the '80s. So like
Yeah.
they
Have
have
you
nothing left to prove at this point.
have you seen the Dirt? The
I
Netflix?
did.
Yeah, man, so good.
The
MGK.
book is supposedly very good too.
My friend lent me the book and I only read a little bit because I just watched the movie and it was pretty like similar. So,
They pulled
but
stories right out of there.
yeah, but
So
apparently the book has a lot more shenanigans. So, actually, if you
they're a
want,
wild band.
if you want, we could just segue into our book club idea. We said we're
It's
gonna
a
do
good
it
it's a
later,
good
but
segue.
yeah. So Brett and I, and hopefully some of our listeners who would be interested, we're gonna pick a music book and we're gonna read it and talk about it. And if you don't want to read along, we'll read it for you. So everyone wins. Yeah, we can chip away and like every week check in or every couple weeks, however we want to do it. But we have to pick a book. So we both came with like a few options. I'm not like married to anything. Um, the one I had written down was from a Rob Harvilla episode. He was talking about Alice in Chains, and he mentioned this book called "Everybody Loves Our Town: An Oral History of Grunge" by Mark Yarm.
That'd be a good one.
Yeah, wrote that down, and then I wrote the Fall Out Boy book down by Joe Troman, None of This Rocks, and then the last one was the first 21, How I Became Nikki Six. He has
I read
tons
his
of books.
Heroin Diaries back in the day.
Wow.
That was a
Yeah,
wild read.
he's had like 3 New York Times bestsellers.
I like Nikki Sixx.
Yeah. Yeah, so those are my three, and hopefully we get to more than just one as we go.
I think we will.
Yeah. Well,
So you asked me this, and I had
yeah.
So one of my favorite authors is Stephen Hayden. He writes for what's that called again? Up Rocks.
Yeah. I
And
recognize
he
it.
also is the host of the IndieCast, and he used to do Celebration Rock podcast. But so he has Twilight of the Gods. It's like about the death of classic rock,
Oh, Brett is holding
which
up a book, Twilight of the Gods.
like
It
based on
has,
the Dark Side of the Moon cover.
yeah, it has Dark Side of the Moon looking cover, but the rays of color are words.
And it says a journey to the end of classic rock, which I thought was an interesting concept because it's like our people, like that's how we kind of got our intro to rock music. But who knows if that's going to continue in generations after, and if that music just kind of float to the background and
Yeah.
disappear a little bit. So that's why I wanted to read that one.
Have you read it?
Not yet.
Not yet.
I
Okay.
bought it because I buy everything he writes just to support him, but
Nice.
they're kind of piling up a little bit. Like I have this new one that just came out this year, Long Road. It's all about Pearl Jam, and I love me some Pearl Jam.
Ooh,
So
another
that's
good option.
also on my list in case you ever want to dive into Pearl Jam more than like 10.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people go there and stop.
That's pretty much what I've done.
Yeah.
It's a great album.
It is a great album.
Yeah. Cool.
Those are my two, though. And then I also have like the Beastie Boys book up there too, which I haven't read yet.
Oh, there's some good options. I don't know. Do we pick now? Do we discuss a little?
I think it depends on what
Let's put
kind of
up
read we want, because I feel like we just threw out like all different generations.
let's put up a poll and see what
do it.
people say. Because could do those like Insta story polls, and I'm sure you could do a Twitter poll. We don't do much on Twitter though, but I'll
This
throw
is
it
that
on
falling
Instagram.
really, really behind on Twitter.
I'll throw it on Instagram and see what people think. We'll narrow it down to like 2 or 3. Cool. Yeah, then we'll get the book club going after next week. So we'll talk about it on next episode, which one we decide on.
So we could finish A Lonesome Night in October.
Yeah. Yeah, which October's over, so I don't know if we're even allowed to finish it now.
Oh, we are.
Okay. All right, good.
They
'cause
meet
that's
at
not fun.
midnight on Halloween, so I think that gives us the first as well wiggle room,
Well played.
right?
Yeah. All right, so we have a voicemail this week. We actually had 2 voicemails. Vinny, if you're listening, we're gonna play yours next week. I'm sorry, I love you. This one's from my cousin, and he got himself into a little concert predicament. So we're gonna see if we can help him.
General admission. Hello and welcome. It's my question. All right, so here's the deal. A few months ago, I booked tickets for a concert for Luke Combs. He's playing at the Mohegan Sun in Connecticut, and the tickets for a set of 2, which is what I was looking for, was like $400 or $500 a piece, and that obviously is not doable with inflation and everything. So what I did was I found a section in the arena that had 2 open single seats a row apart from each other. So I booked one for, it was like section 23, row R. I don't know the exact seat number. And then I did section 23, row S. And they're not like directly in front and behind each other. They're kind of like maybe 7 or 8 seats apart between rows. But what I'm planning on doing is just bringing a couple extra bucks with me and trying to bribe whoever's sitting next to me to switch. That's really the only thing I could think of. So the reason I'm calling in for you guys is to see if you have any ideas on other ways to go about this, or have you ever experienced this before? Anything would help, because if not, I'm going to be watching the concert alone like Steven Glansberg. So yeah, anything will help. Thank you.
Who is he seeing? I missed that part.
He's seeing Luke Combs at Mohegan Sun
Okay.
Arena, and he bought
Great question. And I feel like
Yeah.
it's a new problem with inflated tickets.
Yeah.
And he's not going to be the first person that starts to have problems like this.
No. It's a little tricky at first thought because we're talking 2 single seats here. So assuming no one next to him is there alone, or no one next to his friend is there alone, they're not going to want to move. So my idea is this. You show up and you make friends with whoever's around you, like immediately. And it's something I always like to do at a concert because you're about to spend a lot of time next to these people, asking them to get up when you want to go get a beer, go to the bathroom, like just helps to like kind of say what's up. I usually like to ask like, have you seen Luke Combs before? And they'll be like, oh, it's my first time. And you'll be like, oh, me too. Or they'll say they saw him and then you just let them like talk about how they saw him. So it's like pretty easy to like kind of like make friends around you at a show because that question usually like just gets the ball rolling nicely. Um, so I would do that. And then once like you feel kind of like cool with these people, just be like, you kind of just tell them like, hey, like my girl's here, but she's in another seat. I was hoping she could just like squeeze in for the show. And like if you're all standing during the show, like I think if you have one like extra person kind of in the row like next to you, I don't think it'll be too noticeable. So I think that's your best bet rather than like getting someone to give up their seat because the odds of someone being alone are probably pretty slim,
Yeah, I definitely agree with you on that.
right? Because like I don't know what else you can do.
And there's no like GA in Mohegan Sun,
I mean, there might be, but
but it's
he's
like
got seats.
$1,000.
Yeah. Yeah, and then like I don't know, offer to buy him a beer maybe or something instead of just like try and give him straight cash. That might be like insulting,
Yeah, beer is a good trade. I feel like, especially
right?
knowing how expensive beers could be at shows now too.
Right? If you're gonna try and offer someone a 20, like that's basically a beer. I don't know.
Yeah, definitely go with a beer over a cash offer.
Yeah, because I don't know what else you can do. Like it's happened to me before at fish shows where like we just couldn't even get to our seats and we kind of just like tacked ourselves on to the end of a row and we like offered our joint to the dude and then it was like all was well. Like I think most people are at a concert to have a good time. I don't know what the scene's going to be like out there, but
I think it's probably gonna be like a big party.
right?
That's how most country shows are.
Yeah.
So
So
it shouldn't be an issue if he does what you just said.
yeah, if everyone's like sitting the whole show, then that wouldn't work, but like that's not going to happen, right?
Yeah, no. Definitely a bold move to buy like tickets that aren't next to each other, but it's an issue that is a thing now. Like we couldn't get Blink tickets because we couldn't find two seats next to each other.
Yeah,
And we were both
exactly.
trying for like different parties and it still couldn't happen.
Yeah.
And this is going to be a thing now because it's people continue to buy tickets at these ridiculous prices and it's not going to go down. It's just going to keep getting worse.
Another idea is you could get a really, really, really big cowboy hat, like 50-gallon minimum. And
Like the
just,
SNL one,
yeah, gigantic. And then that'll establish dominance like right away. They'll be like, wow, this guy's hat is huge.
the Burt
So,
Reynolds.
yeah. And then they'll just like ask if you want their seats.
Could
Most
try
likely.
that too.
Yeah. Big hat.
Bigger
But
than normal hat.
it might upset the people behind you though, if it's a really tall hat. So if you get a really wide cowboy hat,
They're not
like
going to want to
wide.
kick you out of the section too. So
True. I don't know, probably try the first strategy first, and then you could try the hat. if you have
yeah,
to.
that's for the best. But
Yeah.
it's a country show though, so I feel like people will be warm to the idea of you offering a beer
Yeah. Yeah.
and to let her squeeze in. Just like kind of a blending of those two ideas.
Right. And like people are like moving around the aisle and stuff. I I don't think it would be too noticeable. Yeah,
Good work.
Good
Hopefully.
luck. Good luck out there.
Can we get an update on how this plays out?
Yeah, I definitely want an update. I don't remember. I think it's next weekend. So it would be 2 episodes.
A
We'll have an
couple weeks.
update.
Okay.
Yeah. We'll also have a book picked out by then. So it'll be major episode.
Must listen.
Yeah, the exciting conclusion of the Luke Combs saga. And we'll have
Maybe some more interviews by then though.
yeah.
See.
Yeah, hopefully we keep this momentum going. And
Riding a good wave right now.
that's right. That's right. And we got to start prepping for some year-end stuff. I know we got a couple months, but oh, speaking of not having reliable seats, I still really want Fish to happen. Keeping an eye on tickets. And my uncle really wants to go because we go to shows together all the time. He's been seeing Fish since like before I was born. And he thinks we could just buy like any seats and then just like wander the garden, which is a true Fish show is like an adventure. So it would be pretty good. It's just the anxiety of trying because I've been in positions before where people not in your now I'm gonna contradict everything I just said, but when people not in your row just like decide they're gonna like post up there and it's kind of frustrating.
When it's a group, I feel like it's a thing. When it's one person, it's
Yeah.
a little more.
Yeah, and it's also
acceptable.
different. It's not like someone who's sitting next to me in that row who I kind of know at this point. So it's not the same, but yeah, I don't think I'd fully want to do that, but if you're down for Wednesday or Thursday, that would be a little better. And those are days my uncle could go. We could have a little crew. We got 2 months.
You can look at the calendar.
Yeah, we got 2 months. We'll keep an eye on the tickets. I still think they're going to come down a little bit. But
We'll
we'll
see.
see. Yeah, we'll see. Because it's a mess out there. It's a mess. Did we talk about this on air? You said Taylor Swift was touring too.
No, this was in our little intermission.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's touring in May. She'll be at MetLife with Phoebe Bridgers, which is an awesome opener. And she's got a couple different dates with like Paramore and Haim. It's a really good tour, but I'm
Wow.
guessing those tickets are going to be absolutely insane.
Yeah, I bet. It's but we could see Parkway Drive at Starland. So we'll still
I'd be open to that one.
we still have club shows. We can rely on club shows. And then if your favorite artist gets too big, sayonara.
Yep, it's Starland, the Pony, House of Independence,
We need to
missing some. A couple of New York clubs too in there.
yeah, Irving Plaza, Bowery, Webster. We need to
Philly,
normalize,
Electric Factory, or whatever it's called now.
yeah. We need to normalize streaming these big shows. If you told me like I could watch like the Taylor Swift show at MetLife for like 20 or 30 bucks,
I'd watch that.
have some friends over and like treat it like a fight or like a game or something. Like there's so
There's-
many artists I would do that for.
I'm surprised she hasn't thought of that yet. Because I feel like she's like so about her fans, like this would be right up her alley. I don't know if
Yeah.
like I don't know what goes into like what Fish does, but I feel like she definitely has the budget to pull it off.
Because I wonder if there's any rights like with the venue where they're like, we don't want you to do this because then people won't want to show up. Like, does the venue have
People will
that
be
power?
there. Like Fish still sells
Oh yeah.
out. Yeah.
People will definitely be there. I just wonder if the venue could shut it down if they wanted to, but they don't for Fish. So I don't know. I think it's something we might see more of though, especially after they did it with Kendrick last weekend. We know
And
it's
with
been
ticket
working
prices
for
going
Fish.
up and
Yeah.
they're seeing fans get priced out, I'm sure that's at least in the back of their minds a little bit.
Yeah.
I would like to think maybe that's just maybe I'm being too optimistic there, but
We just want music. We just want music. Give us the music and let us
live.
pay our bills. uh so what's going on next week?
So
Is
we
it-
have new Drake,
okay.
uh
We need like
a
an
new
emo album.
Menzingers EP that's not new, but it's gonna be on Spotify finally.
All right. That might be new to me.
So Parco and I are going to the On the Impossible Pass show in Asbury on Saturday, which should be
Yes.
amazing.
Is that my ticket?
No, he had another one. I sold yours
Uh,
for profit. Thank you very much.
No problem. You're everything that's wrong with this world.
No, but I only priced it like 15 above
Ah,
like what I bought it for to
just
get my
a little convenience
legit
charge.
money back. So I
Yeah,
was like, I'm not gonna charge like $200 for a House of Independence show.
that's crazy.
Like, so I want someone that wants to go.
Yeah, exactly.
So
I did that with Youngblood once. I had tickets to see him somewhere in the city, and I couldn't go that day, and I wound up going to another show, and I posted online, it wasn't selling, and someone messaged me, and like his fans are definitely like younger, and they were like, "Oh, like is that ticket still available?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, I just wanted like $40 to make my money back." And they're like, "Oh, like I thought like you were giving it away. I misread." And then like a few days go by, the day of the show comes, I still haven't sold it. So I just hit them up, and I'm like, "Here, like just take the ticket, have fun." Just gave it to them. Like figure like maybe they'll pay it forward or have
or
a
the
cool
juju
story.
comes back.
Yeah. Maybe I don't know, just wanted people to have music. Want people to go to shows, but not too many people to go to shows. It's tough.
There are too many people going. But not that there's too many people going. It's just too many people are paying idiotic
Yeah.
prices.
That's it. That's
But
the
that's a whole larger issue. It's why our economy is not fixing itself. So
it's
part of
bigger
a
than
bigger
just
problem. Tickets.
uh oh well.
Not to talk about the economy on our podcast, but
Yeah. Where'd you say the Messinger show was?
So that's going to be at House of Independence. They're doing 4
Nice.
nights
Oh
there:
my God.
Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and they're playing the album in full. And I'm sure they'll have different B sides every night.
I wish I could
Not
go.
B sides, but like different songs from
Yeah.
their other albums.
That sounds so fun.
I can't wait.
Damn, grandma has to turn 80. Some
How
nerve.
rude of her.
No, she rocks. I'm happy she's turning 80. It'll be fun. But I am gonna be sad I'm not going to that show. That's okay. So yeah, we have Drake and Messengers for next week, and
I think the Menzingers EP should be out. So they have obviously on the Impossible Pass. This is on the Possible Pass, and it's like 7 demos of the songs
oh,
that
that's cool.
were eventually would turn into that album. Like the whole thing's up on YouTube and it's been up on YouTube for like 10 years. But it's so good, and I'm glad it's going to finally be on Spotify because you hear like the
Nice.
bare bones of those songs and what they would eventually
that's
turn out
awesome.
to be.
I'm excited for that. Cool. And yeah, I'm sure we always wind up finding more albums than we thought. So we'll see
Yeah,
what
we do.
happens. All
I'm
right.
curious what our rap are going to look like this year. Like with all the album listening we've had to do for the show. Like, can they even find like a top 10 because it's all over the place?
It's gonna be interesting. That'll be fun to break down. I love those things.
I do too. I think they're starting to put it together like now. I think like it was like an article I saw said like your last day to fix your Wrapped is today.
Oh
You
wow.
want to get like songs you want on there, like listen to them repeat, like on
Pad the
repeat.
stats.
Like pad the stats pretty much.
Crazy. Oh, it's gonna be what it's gonna be. I'm interested. All right. That's our show. Thank you everyone for listening. Thank you, Tom Denney, for coming on. We love you all, and we'll talk to you next week.
Put your feet there, jab at the Ferenzi.